Hello and happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so very much for listening to 98.3 FM, The Life. You're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. And of course, I'm your host, Marty Jalove. I come at you every single Monday night, 7 o'clock, to talk about your job, your career, your business made clear, or your vision made clear, the skills that you hone for the business that you own, the ups and downs, the smiles and frowns, where you're at and where you're bound. If you miss any of today's episode, you can always tune in later into the week. Find Bacon Bits with Master Happiness anywhere you listen to podcasts. So I do I do my best trying to find some really cool, interesting guests. And this next guest that we have today is a returning guest. This is part two of a three-part series on the science of happiness, right? And so this is really great. Last month we talked a little bit about the foundations of happiness. Today we're talking about breaking the barriers to joy, those kind of things that kind of get in our way or we allow to get in our way. I met Bette. The end of last year, I want to say, or it was early, the end of last year, something like that, around October. That's right. That's so true. I met her at the Chicago area Mensa convention, and she was speaking there. She was one of the guest speakers there, and it was one of those things of saying, "Oh, we've got a legitimate happiness coach here. I've got to sit in on that." And I avoided some other meetings I was supposed to go to there. I'm on the board of directors there for the Chicago area Mensa, although I don't go to many of the meetings. They're probably going to fire me. But anyway, I had to go and check out Bette, and immediately within just a few minutes, just absolutely fell for her. I was like, this person, I just got to know. I got to be able to talk to her, and I definitely got to get her on the show. So last month was an amazing show, and today promises to be even better. So Bette, I just want you to say hello to the world.
Hello, world.
There you go. You put the mic a little closer to you. I want to make sure that they hear everything you got. Notice like the mic's right next to my mouth. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, go ahead. Better.
All right.
So Bette, tell us again, while you're still on camera, tell us again, what are you doing currently? Like, where do you spread happiness? Where did you learn happiness? Some of it's definitely by experience, but what'd you study and stuff like that? Why you focus on happiness? Tell us a little more about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, my day job is that I am a lecturer at Benedictine University in public health.
Nice.
And part of the focus in one of the classes that I teach is on happiness in the community and how it impacts health. And then about 30 years ago, I took a real interest in the happiness study. I just heard about it. And I was fascinated by the findings that people were living longer and healthier and because of happiness. And I learned about the business impact of happiness on the bottom line, on whether customers come back, on how our employees can influence and their happiness can influence whether customers choose to do business with us or not. So my husband and I also own a small business for the last 36 years. And I shared information with him and he tried it. And we found out that the nicer we were, the kinder, the happier our drivers were for a limousine company.
Sure.
That customers started wanting to repeat business. And so they did. So we grew from one automobile, one limo, to 26.
Wow.
So in a short period of time using this theory. But happiness needs to be taken more seriously. We need to focus more on aiming for it. It's not a constant, but we can have an impact. We can certainly influence how happy we are and the happiness of others. So that's the story in a nutshell.
I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you so very much. You know what? I'm going to throw it back to you for a second. What's your limousine business name? Might as well throw that out on the air too.
Okay, it's Executive Preference Limousines, and it's in Naperville.
Okay, and I know he's sitting out there. We couldn't get him to come on the radio, right? Yeah,
No.
He's just not as happy as us. That's what it is.
Make him happy.
There you go. Making him happy is keeping him off the radio, I think.
Exactly.
There you go. All right. So what I wanted to do is this whole idea first, before we get going, I wanted to read this thing. What happens when the soundtrack of your life is hijacked by the heavy, harsh static of stress, right? Are fear and negative self-talk drowning out your daily joy? We all want to feel fulfilled, but sometimes our own minds build up massive walls that completely block the light, right? Now, so I first, before we dig into this, do you think we really have control over this? Or sometimes are we just destined to be lead a doom and gloom life? What's your opinion on it?
Well, part of our ability to be happy, we do inherit that. So
Okay.
like 50%, but we have control over 15% of it
Right.
ourselves.
Okay.
So our attitudes, how we view ourselves, how we view others can have a major impact on us. Now, I find that through my experience, and I've had a lot of ups and downs. So this is a rich topic for us to
Sure.
talk about, especially the stress aspect. I don't want you to think for a moment that I'm an expert at this, but I am an expert to my 80 years of experience on this earth and the things that I've had to go through. I also studied, I took a certification course in happiness with the Happiness Institute several years ago. And I find that at my darkest days, when I apply some of the principles that I have learned, that it lifts me up. It doesn't eliminate the issue or the problem, but it changes my physical being about it. I feel better. I'm thinking more clearly, and I can be more rational.
I like that.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
There you go. I like that. You know what? One of the things is, I got to tell you, last month we talked about that, and I dug into what you talked about, that some of our feelings or our aversion to happiness is inherited, right? And I was like, oh, I don't want to dwell on that. I want to talk about that. Whether it's true or not, but I did dig into it, and there's some real research on this, that much of this is inherited. And the reason I didn't want to dwell on it was because every time we give some people a reason to be unhappy, they choose unhappiness because they're like, see, it's out of my hands. It's it's in my genes. I can't be happy. So why try? And I want to make sure that we drive home the idea that even if I only could control 1% of my happiness, if 99% of my life was taking me down and I could only control 1%, I think it's so important for us to say, I am going to fight for that 1%. I'm going to push through that, make sure that 1%, however much I can build it, how much I can grow with it, how much I can expand upon that, I am going to exercise that happiness muscle.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want us to grow in joy and happiness and share it with the world.
Exactly. If I can use just as an example, my husband is the firstborn son of Holocaust survivors. They were both, his mother and his father were in concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And naturally, once the war was over and they survived and they learned that their entire families had been wiped out,
right,
there was a certain amount of doom and gloom that was associated with that, naturally. But when they married, my husband was born in Germany, but when they married, when they met, his mom and dad met each other. They were sent from the same village in Poland.
Okay.
Lutz, Poland. And they were both looking through the garbage dumps for little artifacts or souvenirs that they could find and hold on to remind them of their families. And his dad looked up and he saw the mom and he says, I know her. And she looked up and saw him and says, I know him. And 9 months later, my husband was born.
Wow.
But
wow.
anyway,
okay.
Needless to say, they moved to America and lived in Brooklyn. He was raised in Brooklyn. And there was a sadness to the family. And he often has told me stories of how, as a child, he'd have to console his mom and dad.
Sure.
And so when we met, he was kind of in an area where he was depressed about a lot of different things.
Right, right.
But being around a happier person, even though you have it in your genes,
Yep.
that has an influence on you.
Definitely. 100%.
And by
Yes.
nature, I have always been positive in the darkest of days, even as a child, with a mom and dad who had their own issues
Yeah.
with alcohol and with just struggling in, I told you I'm 81 years old, but in those days, during the time, there was no integration. They had their own issues.
Sure.
And my mom and dad, fortunately, they had that bright side in
Okay.
spite of it all. And I think I inherited.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And so I want to touch on this whole story that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I was listening to something, a happiness podcast on the way here.
Okay.
All right. So I'm just like, I gotta get prepared, right? Right. Exactly. You can never be happy enough, right? And so they talked a little bit about the science of it, saying go back thousands and thousands of years to the caveman version of who we are now, right? They said that those people lived probably one out of every 8 died a horrific death, right? Just because it was either a fight from another tribe or it was a wild animal. 1 out of every 8 died that way.
And they didn't live very long.
No, and they didn't live very long at all. Now you've moved fast forward to World War II, okay, where the people who fought in the war, it was kind of 1 out of 100 died in the war, okay, which was horrific. 1 out of 100, that's 1%. But think about that, one out of 100 versus the 1 out of 8 dying, right? Compared to what we live now, right now almost everyone dies of old age, right? It's amazing how much we've progressed, but what happens is we don't have the same fears that we had in the past. We don't have the same fears of being in war. We don't have the same fears of saber-toothed tigers jumping out of a bush from us. So what we end up doing is, because that's part of us, we create these greater fears out of the things that shouldn't be that scary. It's a negativity bias. We're looking for things that are going to hamper our happiness. We purposely are looking for a reason to stay down in the bottom of the hole.
We're programmed that way.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's important that we have to talk that way because we are programmed that way, but we have to look back throughout history, not just our own lives, but stories like you're sharing about how grateful we are for those people who survived and how grateful we are that we're not going through that.
Exactly.
Right. And that possibly we learn from those types of things. And we have to be able to say the troubles of today are nothing compared to the troubles of yesterday. Right.
And so true.
And the idea here is that I'm not diminishing troubles. I'm what? People get stressed out. People feel anxious. They feel depressed. I understand that. And there's horrific things that are going on. There still are. But we need to occasionally look backwards and saying, it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
And there are little things you can do. Your self-talk.
Yes.
How you talk to yourself when you make a mistake or when you're feeling down. If you don't, you're not able to orchestrate what you want, but you learn to pick yourself up regardless and say, I'm going to take what I have and I'm going to make the best of it.
Right.
And keep that going. When you can't find a motivator, be your own motivation.
There you go. I agree. I think I shared this story with you. I don't know if we shared it on the air last episode or whatever, about for myself, when we talk about, I'm speaking from the heart. I study, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read books on happiness. So all of this kind of stuff. And so when I'm sharing this stuff, I'm not saying I have a doctorate in happiness. I'm not saying I'm a professor of happiness. I'm sharing from my heart what I truly believe. All right. So this is definitely an opinion show. And I always tell people, if you have severe depression, severe anxiety, seek help. Go to a therapist, go to somebody who can help you. But through my own experience, the first couple of years of the show here, it was strictly, we just talked happiness. We talked about dealing with all types of things. We talked about how to deal with fear, how to deal with death, how to deal with bullying, all kinds of stuff. Every week was something different for 2 years. So you figure in 2 years, it was about 100 episodes of just concentrating and doing research on happiness, right? And it was around December, getting close to Christmas. And I'm driving the car. My wife and our daughter is sitting in the back chair, and we're driving to my father-in-law's house. And during this month, I had spent this month of going every day of December, I'm going to watch 2 Christmas movies every day. So I'd stay up really late and watch Christmas movies. And I was watching them all, right? So you get all these joyous movies, 2 years of studying happiness, right? And as we're heading that way, a commercial comes on the radio, and it was something silly. It was something about like, Charmin toilet paper, and the bears are talking, and it's like, and I found myself starting to cry a little in the car. And my wife goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's such a beautiful story." And I had joy. And I told her, it is amazing because I like surrounded myself with nothing but so much positive energy, so much positive spirit, so much optimism, that what happened was then it was just I was at this point where every single thing made me happy. And just through that experiment alone, I realized that happiness within us is a muscle that we can really develop. And today we're going to talk about those barriers, that sometimes barriers are put in front of us. I mean, you're sharing the Holocaust story with us, right? You're talking about segregation. So these are outside sources, or forces that we have no control over. Okay. And so why do we let the little things that we do have control over? Why do we let those get in our way? What's your gut on that?
Exactly. And we cause our own stress
Oh my
with
God,
these
yes.
things. I mean, there's some people who, unless they're stressing out, they're not, it's like they lose it. They've got to
Yes.
create something to be stressed out about.
Yes. Yeah.
And so that impacts us as well. Now, but there's 2 different kinds of stress.
Okay.
There's the good stress, which is called eustress, Eustress. And that's like being stressed out about going on a job interview.
Sure.
Or stressed out about, finishing their last paper for a class if you're graduating from college. Or getting married, you're stressed out. That's eustress. That's good stress.
Okay.
That stress has an impact on us physiologically and mentally, but it's different than bad stress, which
Okay.
is called distress, distress.
Okay. Okay. What's
Now,
the first? That one's this is distress. What was the first one called?
It's called eustress.
Eustress. Okay.
EU.
Okay.
Stress. And it's temporary. It rises, it peaks, and then you come down from it. The hormones that it stimulates are quite different from the ones that are the distress.
Okay.
And we feel better. Our breathing, our heart rate, and everything calms down. We sleep better when we have experiences with the good stress. The bad stress, on the other hand, it shortens our lives.
Oh,
We have, the cortisol levels.
right.
It's the stress hormone. It's just off the walls when we're stressed out. And we have, it shortens our lives. It influences the people that we love the most.
Sure.
Because they have to live around this. And that in itself is causing a degree of stress too. Now, one of the things that we have to realize is that happiness is not a constant, and neither is the stress.
Right.
And you can use them to kind of balance each other.
Yeah.
But you got to work at it.
I agree. I like the idea of thinking all the time that if I am in a bad situation, if something is stressing me out, I force myself to say this is temporary, right? And I'm going towards this means right around the corner something amazing is going to happen.
Exactly.
Happiness is right around the corner. And then when I'm happy, I realize, hey, this too is going to end eventually. It's fleeting. I can't be this
fleeting.
euphoric all the time, right? So enjoy it while it lasts. Too often people go, oh, I'm happy, it ain't gonna last, so why should I be happy? Why should you be happy? Because you are happy right now. Things are going well. Enjoy it while it lasts.
And the sad thing is that some of us, because of our programming, we're hearing a voice that's telling us we are not worthy
Yeah.
of happiness.
Right,
Or
right.
we're hearing a voice. I've heard people do simple, like drop a pen or sheet of paper and they curse themselves out. Oh, I'm so stupid. Why did I do
My
that?
God, yes, yes.
And your brain does not forget.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
saying you're stupid, and the more your subconscious hears it, it's going to try to
It becomes
that's
true.
what your brain does.
Yeah. So when when my daughter was younger and I was raising her, she had a girlfriend that would come over, and I'm just going to call her Sally. Okay. And what ended up happening was all the time when Sally would make a mistake, she'd do something. She'd go, "Oh, I can't believe it. I'm pulling a Sally. I'm just pulling a Sally." And I was like, what do you mean by that? She goes, "Oh, it's a joke we have, me and my mom, all the time, that whenever I make a mistake, it's called a Sally." And I was like, "No, don't name it yourself. Don't connect yourself with all the negativity.
Yeah.
Call it something
That's
different."
right.
And I remember just like begging her, no, and she's laughing. "Oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's just a Sally," right? And I was like, "No, don't laugh it off." And since then, what's really neat is I do a lot of sales training and communication training with people, and people have this fear, this anxiety of standing in front of people. They have the fear of selling to people, like they don't want the confrontation. People just have the fear of small talk, entering a room that they don't know anyone. So I always talk about, we have that negative voice in our head. And one of the first things you do is I say, name that voice, call him or
That's
her or
right.
someone else. And so the voice in my head, the negative voice in my head, I call Burt, Burt, right?
Yeah.
And when I first told my wife this, she goes, "Oh, Bert's a fun name. He was the chimney sweep from Mary Poppins." I was like, "All right, that's Bert. I'm Burt, like it's burnt bacon." And I say, when I go out on stage to talk in front of a large group of people, all right before I go on stage, Bert starts talking to me, going, "Oh, who do you think you are that you could do this? You can't do this. You're not even prepared." All this negative speaking. And now I tag it saying, "Bert, you weren't invited to this. They didn't ask you to do this. They asked Marty to do this. So you're not invited. Why don't you stay over here? I'm going to go out on the stage."
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it takes that sometimes.
Yes.
To step away from the situation mentally or physically and just regroup.
Right.
Tell yourself, hey, I can do this. Take a deep breath. Breathe in.
Yeah.
Breathe out.
There you go.
Breathe in. Breathe out.
I love it.
And you get stronger.
Yeah. So
I feel strong.
By the end of the show, whenever you're ready, I want you to come up with a name for that inner voice for you.
Oh, okay.
All right, because I want you to think of something good. Because
Okay.
I want nothing to do with Bert. Okay, and I know he still lives there. I can't chase him out. All right, but there's more good voices in my head than those negative voices. So I got that going for me.
Choir going.
Oh my God! Sometimes I'm not even invited to the party. All right. So before we get into this, we're already getting close to the bottom of the hour. So I just want to introduce the idea that Betty. Now you're an old pro at this show. All right.
All right.
The reason the show is called Bacon Bits with Master Happiness is because I truly believe anything bacon touches becomes a little bit better. And you proved it last time. You brought me all those donuts.
Yeah.
That you cursed me. I said, "There's no way I can't eat them." But over a couple of days, I ended up eating them all. So thank you, and my waistline thanks you. All right. So Betty brought me these delicious bacon maple donuts. Where was the store? What was it?
It was called
Country
Patio Donuts.
Oh, Patio Donuts.
Patio
All right.
Donuts.
Oh my God, they were amazing, absolutely amazing. So, but anyway, so the show is called Bacon Bits because again, everything that bacon touches becomes a little bit better. I tried as hard as I could to try to get a career just eating bacon, and no one would pay me to do that. All right. So I had to instead switch this around. So the show is not about the bacon for chewing. The show is about the bacon for doing. All right. And so we use the acronym BACON to kind of a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. All right. And so the bacon today about how we take the action steps to overcome those things that are in our way, hindering us from happiness. Is the B is just what you said, breathe and pause. That's the B. We'll get into that in more detail. A is acknowledge your feelings. And we talked a little bit on that, where I want to talk more. C is challenge the narrative. In other words, challenge what it is that's going in our head, what's causing those negative feelings. O is opt for optimism. Okay. And N is going to be network. Get out there and talk to people. Okay, so that's kind of the loose outline here. And so I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of why do you think we is there something more than the prehistoric thing, the thing in our genes that as soon as we feel stress or fear, we do this whole thing? The stress responses are that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop, right? Those are the five. And you think about, they're all the negative, right? Why not? Why isn't one of them fix the problem? So in fight, flight, why not fix the problem? All right. So why is it that we have so many quick negative responses, whether it's through fear, anger, or whatever?
Well, sometimes from my research, the negative voices that we hear are not even our own
Okay.
voices. Sometimes it can be, I mean, we're not the critic of ourselves
Sure.
every time.
Sure.
Sometimes it's borrowed. It could be a teacher. It could be a parent whose negative voice you're hearing over and over. It could be a culture that has not been accepting of us as well.
Yeah.
So it often isn't you. The cause is not from you. It's from the outside influences. And your subconscious remembers every experience, every person that you meet, even though consciously you may not. But they all have an influence on you as an individual, on each of us.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I think it's that idea that you tell a child that he's a bad boy long enough, and the child will live up to that, right? You tell somebody, oh, you're stupid, you're not as smart as everyone else, they're going to live up to that, right? And so knowing that and just thinking about it, saying yes, that will come true, that's absolutely true. Why not instead continue to encourage people to become their absolute best? Okay. Do you think there's some truth to this idea that I'm purposely going to put down the people around me because I'm afraid that they will surpass me? Okay. And so I would rather put the people around me. Like I am sure that there are parents out there who hold their children down because they don't want their children to realize the dreams that the parent never was able to. Okay. And think of how sad that is.
That is so sad. And the thing is that often people will put someone else down.
Yep.
In order to make themselves feel uplifted.
Right.
They feel better after they've said something negative to you.
Right.
It makes them feel better.
Okay. So how do you have any I'm going to give you a kind of a clue that I've worked on a lot, because I've worked a lot with kids on this idea of bullying. Fun of you, whether it's the way you look, the way you dress, your physical stature, you're overweight, you're short, whatever the deal is, how you deal with it. And my feeling is, and it's really tough to do because it's sometimes when you hear it from your peers, it's biting, right? It hurts. It gets you into your heart and soul. But you have to be able to quiet down, take a breath, like you had said, and do this whole thing of the first thing I always say, could you repeat what you said? Okay. Putting the burden back on that person to go, are you being a mean person? Let me hear you say it again. Right. So clarify what you mean. All right. And if the person says that, you can ask some questions like, are you okay? Okay. Like something must be bothering you that you're attacking me. Okay. Or what you end up doing is somebody tells me, man, Marty, you're fat. My answer's got to be, yeah, I am overweight. In fact, it's kind of funny. According to the medical research, I'm still obese. I'm losing weight, but I'm still considered obese. I don't know how much more I have to lose until I get to be normal, right? And so what that does is those types of things take the wind out of their sails, right? And suddenly the insult, it doesn't carry as much by pushing it back on there and saying it's not that big of a deal. Are there any secrets that you can share on how people can deal with that? Because people are picked on all the time, whether the opposing person is doing it purposefully or accidentally. People get their feelings hurt. So how do we deal with that?
And bullying is a very cruel thing. And it unfortunately, young bullies grow up to be big bullies, old bullies in the workplace. And some professions have more bullies than others. But often, as a child, you don't have the luxury of trying to be rational with another child. And the bullying can cause kids to even commit suicide,
to
undo themselves. So unalive themselves.
Right, right.
And you don't want that. But I would say, in my personal experience, because I was too skinny, I was the skinny one,
Okay.
the one that everybody teased for
Okay.
being thin. But and I never overcame it. It was
Yeah.
only after I became a professional and an adult that I learned that often you've got to stand up to them. Have a
Sure.
talk, have a private talk when
Yeah.
they're away from their groupie.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, let's talk about this
Okay.
and get together. And you find that they have fears just
Oh
like
my
you
God.
do.
Yes, of course they
Full
do.
of fears. That's why they're bullies.
Right, right.
So the other thing is make a humor out of it. Sometimes turn it around.
Right,
They're
right.
bullying you, teasing you, switch it around. I mean, I have a quick mind when it comes to jokes and catchlines and things like that. I think I learned it because I was bullied. But
Okay.
come back with something that hits them in the stomach
Oh,
as
okay.
well. Sometimes you have to just stand up to them. But in a workplace situation or a professional situation, often it's calling the person out. Hey, let's talk about this for a minute.
All right.
What you said just now hurt me.
Yeah.
Did you intend to do that? Is that something that you meant to do?
Right,
I'm
right.
sure you didn't.
Yes.
And humanize them.
I like it. I like humanizing.
Because they
So-
have soft spots too.
So the only thing I'm going to disagree with you is,
Okay.
and maybe you're going to explain it deeper.
We're okay
but
to
we're going
disagree.
to, yeah, we're going to take a break in a moment. Is this idea that sometimes when we come back, I don't want to hit them back. I don't want to insult them. What if I'm going to make a joke? I'm going to make a joke out of what they said about me.
Mhm.
I'm going to make a joke about myself so that they suddenly realize that they didn't hurt my feelings. In fact, what they did was they set up something that I can continue to say,
Absolutely.
as opposed to attacking them. If somebody goes, "Oh, Marty, you're so short," I'm going to go, "Your problem is you're too tall." That type of thing. It starts a fight that there's never, that there's right. And there's never a winner. Okay.
All right. I'll take it.
All right. So we're going to, please, we're already halfway through the show. Can you believe how quickly this goes?
Oh, wow.
All right. So we're going to be right back after just a couple of messages. Please stay tuned. I have my newest best friend, Eddie Lawrence Waters, and we're talking about how to overcome those things that get in our way that hinder our happiness. So please stay tuned. Let me start this. And we are back. Thank you so very much for staying tuned in to 98.3 FM, The Life. You're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. I'm your host, Marty Jalove, and I'm here with Bette Lawrence Water, and we're talking about happiness. This is part 2 of a 3-part series on the science of happiness. Last month, we talked a little bit about the foundations of happiness. Today, we're talking more about those things that hinder our happiness. And if you missed any of the show, tune in later in the week to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness, anywhere you listen to podcasts. So, Bette, I want to jump back into this really quickly because, again, the second half an hour always goes quicker. Look at this. We're already running out of time. I want to cover all this kind of stuff. Although we've been jumping around, we've been hitting all the bacon, the BACON, but I want to talk a little bit about this comparison culture we live in. How we compare ourselves to everyone else, whether it's through social media, whether it's through television, movies, etc. I'm going to talk about that, but really quick, I just want to remind everyone, basically what we're talking about is when the action steps we want to face when we are faced with things that are hindering our happiness is this. B is going to be learn to breathe and pause, take a little break. A is acknowledge your feelings. It's okay. We understand there's nobody who's going to be happy 100% of the time. Okay. But that also means you don't have to be sad 100% of the time. Challenge the narrative. Sometimes what ends up happening, what is making me feel terrible, ask yourself, what is it? Put it in words. What is it? And you suddenly find out maybe it's not that big of a deal. O is opt for optimism all the time. When today was earlier, we talked a little bit about it was raining something awful today, right? And I was talking to somebody like, look at how awful this is. I'm like, are you kidding? This is great. When the skies are gray and the rain is falling, that means we get rainbows, And so it's really positive. It's the idea of O is opt for optimism every time you get. And then N is going to be network. In other words, go out, surround yourself with good people. So with that, I want to go back and I want to hear your point on what's happening with our world right now about this comparison culture that we spend so much time comparing ourselves to other people. And that's one of the things that's really hindering our happiness.
Absolutely. Well, I think that the last 25 years or so, we in the US have been exposed so much to social media. So
Sure.
much of social media is driven by people posting all these great things that are happening in their lives, the promotion, the doctoral degree they earned, the new car they bought,
Yeah.
the wedding, the anniversary. We're being bombarded constantly with this information, whereas 35 years ago, we didn't have that issue. As a result, on the World um, Happiness Scale, the World Health Organization healthy and happiness scale, we have moved down quite a few notches. And a
Oh,
lot of it has to do with comparison culture.
sure.
Everybody's doing well except for me. Why don't I have the new car? Why haven't I celebrated my 35th wedding anniversary? And after a while, it can really get to you.
Yeah.
Some people become very depressed,
Right,
very
right.
discouraged just by reading all the good things that are happening in other people that they think are happening in other people's lives and not their own. Well, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with my family and what
Right.
we're doing?
Gotcha.
And the thing is, we need to use that. There's a difference between comparing ourselves to others, social comparison, as opposed to being inspired, social
Oh,
inspiration.
I love
Be
that.
inspired by what you see. This can give you a goal to work toward.
That's
This
beautiful.
can give you some ideas on what you want to strive for in your life, in your future. And so you just reframe it, reframe your thoughts about, oh, well, why are they doing so well and I'm not? Envy is not healthy
Not at all.
and certainly not a partner with happiness.
I like it.
So,
I like it.
so you want to be inspired, even though it's not you posting everything on the internet about yourselves and all the good things that are, and a lot of it is just fluff anyway,
Oh my God, yes.
puffery.
Yes.
So be inspired though. Think about it. It's like, well, you want to do that.
I have an exercise. I want to throw this by you. I think this is something that I'm trying for myself, and I find myself like falling on it, failing on it, but I keep pushing for it. And the more I'm pushing for it, the more I hear this. And it falls right in line with what you're saying. Is I like the idea of looking at the successes other people are having. And I don't care. It could be the smallest success, like, hey, I just celebrated 5 years at blah, blah, blah company. Okay. Celebrate. Congratulations. Way to go. Right. And so I try to celebrate everything. But here's one of these things I hear a lot of people when they say something like, I just got this new car, right? Now, instead of us saying, oh my God, congratulations to the new car, what you hear so often is, oh yeah, I just got a new car too, and
Yes.
immediately you do the people do this whole thing where I'm like, why do you feel like you have to take some of their joy away? That little bit of saying, why not just let them revel in it? It's the same when somebody sends me a joke or a meme through social media and they send me something or a video. Marty, I thought you'd see this. It used to be, oh yeah, I already saw that. Why tell them that? Right?
Right.
Because
Mhm.
they found something they want to share with you, and instead just send back, wow, that was great. Thank you so much. And just leave it like that, as opposed to, yeah, that happened to me too. I already saw that. Yeah, I was already there. It's not a contest, right?
That's
And I
right.
think the more that we can release that, the more we can say thank you for that.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
I absolutely love that.
Because I think what it does is it hides a little something inside of us saying, yeah, I saw that. I too have something to be proud of. But right now, let this person be really happy, and I'm going to help
Oh,
them.
excellent. Very
Right?
good
Yeah,
advice.
yeah.
Very good advice. I love
And
that.
now that I mentioned it, you're going to notice it even more, right? And it's
Yeah.
kind of funny. I find myself grinning when I see it happen. Okay.
Then you do get the a repeat of a meme that you've seen already.
Completely.
But like you were saying, why should you want to diminish that other person's joy
Yeah.
by saying that? Saying that, well, I already got that. Yeah, yeah, I've seen that one already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. How about just,
I
yeah.
learned something
Right.
today.
All right. Good. Awesome. Wow. So I wanted to jump on this comparison culture because you talked on it too. Is that when I was younger, it was the comparison was not social media. It was the TV shows we'd watch. right? And there, you go way back. There was like Father Knows Best. Then, and when I was a kid, it was the Brady Bunch and stuff like this. And you watch this, and I remember my mother coming in, turning off the Brady Bunch. Okay, and it was this remarried family, a husband and wife, married, and the guy had 3 sons. The woman had 3 daughters, and they're a blended family now. And my mom would turn it off, and I was like, "We're watching that." And she said, I just remember her one time, real people aren't that happy all the time, right? So in other words, we're not letting you watch that, right? And it was just this funny bit that it didn't like hurt me. Like, I'm like, oh, I can never watch that. That maybe in her own way, she was trying to tell us, don't set those expectations. Don't think that you can live the sitcom life, because life is a series of ups and downs, right? It was that. And the other thing she always used to tell us was, we don't air our dirty laundry in public. And so we'd go out there and we would hear these, my friends would go, "Oh my God, I can't believe my father did this. My mother did this." And I would sit there thinking, yeah, my mom did that too, but I'm not allowed to complain. Right. And it was neat, because then people came up to me all the time going, "You have such a happy family." And I'm like, "Oh, if only you knew."
And back in my day,
Yes.
growing up, was keeping up with the Joneses.
Okay.
We didn't have, as a matter of fact, part of my life, there wasn't even any television.
All right.
I
There you
remember
go.
when we got the first TV,
Yeah.
there were 26 people in our living room around
Wow.
a 17-inch Motorola television.
Right.
And then the neighbors had to keep up with us. So then they started buying bigger screens.
Sure.
You get the 17-inch, you get the 21-inch, you
Right.
get the 27-inch. That was big.
Yeah.
But that was keeping up with the Joneses.
Right.
And that's part of it. We didn't have internet, social media, but that was part of it.
But I think part of it, the reason why that was different was because then I could walk away and I could, right? And I could see the good that they had going on, but plus all the hardship, right? With social media, when I'm following these people, like you said, I'm only going to post the best, the highlight. I'm going to take 60 pictures of myself and only put the prettiest picture. So don't judge me on that, because when you look at my pictures on social media, you're like, that was the best. All right. But what ends up happening is, what we see on social media are staged images, run through filters and set up to the absolute best that's going on, right? We forget about that. We say we are comparing ourselves to something that isn't real.
That isn't real.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's made up.
That's so true. That's so true. So I want to get into this idea of the next step is, what would you say are some of the armor that we have to have, the things about us? I wrote down 2 things here, and that is the things we need to build upon ourselves is emotional intelligence. I think it's really important for us to say this whole idea that we have to be smart about the way that our body works, how we get sad, what triggers us to be upset, and understand that that's fleeting. Okay. And be able to control a little bit of my emotions. So that emotional intelligence. And the other one is that resilience. Okay. And putting those both together and allowing things to bounce away and say, I'm not going to let that affect me. When I'm knocked down, I'm going to get back up. Okay. Everything good or bad only lasts a short period of time.
Yes. First of all, I would say that emotional intelligence is really important. It's key, because when you're in control of your own emotions and thoughts, you can redirect a lot of the negativity that comes your way.
Yep.
You talked about resilience. Yes, I agree with you on that. Having resilience, or the ability to bounce back or figure out ways to come back.
Right.
It isn't always easy.
Oh my God, no.
But it can be done. The third option I would add would be creativity. Think outside the box.
I love
Think of new ways, better ways to improve the situation, to get control of your happiness again. You have to be creative, because if you're stuck in that box, you're not going to move beyond it. Often it means stepping outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like little kittens in a little pillow they like, they're comfortable there. They ain't going nowhere. When you step outside the comfort zone, you grow.
Okay.
and you attract people. You meet people that maybe you would never have approached before, like you and
Okay.
I.
Yep.
You become connected with them. But through creativity, you think about ways that you can build your network.
Okay.
About ways that you can, if you see someone sitting alone and at a meeting, you don't know them, they don't know anybody themselves there, approach them and just introduce yourself
I like
with
it.
a big smile. Say, hi.
There you go. There you go.
Marty, I see you're sitting alone. Would you like to join me at this table? I mean,
it's so
to
simple.
me, there's so many ways. Like I gave a lady I'd never met a bouquet of flowers.
Okay.
She was jogging and I was walking and I had picked some wildflowers.
Yeah.
And I just walked up to her and I said, you know,
Oh, that's beautiful.
I got so many of these, I want to share them. And I just handed them to her and she's like, what? And then we kind of struck up a conversation.
I like it.
Never would have happened had I
Oh,
not
of course
thought
not.
of
Right.
being creative.
I think that's wonderful. Just to do those true random acts of kindness.
Acts of kindness.
And just go out of your way, that if you made it a habit in our life that just once a week, not even do it, I'm not even gonna say once a day, just once a week. And if you can't do once a week, do it once a month. Set a day that you just do something kind for another person, not to get a thank you. All right, just do something kind. It could be whatever it is. It could be, oh, careful, you almost tripped on that. If that's what it is, just that. Be kind to someone else and it'll make you feel good inside. Okay, as we're getting close to the end here, I wanted to do this whole thing of, we're going to miss this BACON completely, although we covered most of it. And I think we really touched on all those, the BACON, those 5 different topics. But I want to talk on a couple of different things, some tricks or tips that we can do when things are low in our life, when we're feeling low, when we feel like I can't get out of that hole, when I'm feeling too sad and I can't control it. What are some of the things we can do? And it's also some of the preventative things. And the first thing I want to tell you about this is this 2 lists. And this is this idea over again. And first, it's not really so much a list, but make a happiness year jar. So it's a jar or a box that every day you give yourself the task of writing something that made you happy that day. Write it down. Could be really silly. I saw a caterpillar, whatever it was. Write it down, put it in the box, right? Because what it does is it forces you to look for something that brought you joy, right? Then at the beginning of the next year, you open this box and you have over 300 little happiness notes, right? And I think that's one of those things to force ourselves during the year. If things are going really rough, open the box during the year. There's no law that says you have to wait, right? Open it up and look at this. Now, here's this other one that I just heard, and I really like this, is when you fail at something, when something goes wrong, when you said, oh, I screwed up, failed, and then write the thing out, right? Then flip it over, wait a minute, wait an hour, whatever it is, take a deep breath, flip it over, cross off the word failed and say lesson I learned, and reread it.
Instead of failed.
Yeah. And just look at this. And what you're doing is you're teaching yourself how to reframe those things that make us angry, those things that sadden us, right? Reframe those into a lesson learned so that I'll never do that again. Okay. So I want you to share. Do you have any other cool little tips like that, tips or tricks that you can share?
Yes.
Okay.
For the last couple of years, to step back a bit from all the things that I love to help care for a family member.
Okay.
It's made a big difference in my life because I don't have the freedom that I had before to travel to China, to go to exotic places and lecture and talk. And I found myself building up a resentment about this. And that isn't healthy.
No.
And it isn't happy.
No.
But one of those little things I do when I leave this person is I put on music. I play music on my drive home that is uplifting and inspiring. Sometimes it's instrumental. Sometimes it's a vocal. But the next thing you know, by the time I reach my destination, hey, I'm popping. I'm ready for more.
Yes.
The other thing is, like you were saying about the notes in the jar,
Yeah.
I do keep a gratitude journal, but it isn't just writing down the things that I am grateful for. I write a poem.
Oh, I
Or
like
write
that.
an essay
I like that.
about that over my morning coffee or sometimes before I
Oh,
go
that's
to
so
bed.
cool.
And I'm hoping that at the end of the year, I'll have a whole collection. Or at the end of my life, my family will have something that they will
That's
know
beautiful.
that things that have brought me joy. And a lot of them are included in that. So,
I like that a lot. You know what? It reminds me of this whole thing is we're talking about this going, okay, so every morning you wake up and I do this whole thing. Now I'm forcing myself to not look at the phone right away. I
mhm.
wake up, make coffee. I try to sip a little bit of the coffee and try to drink the coffee without turning on my phone. I just want to sit in silence for a little bit. And then eventually, but I want to tell people, think about this. Think about your life if you could start every day in silence, just enjoying the quiet, the solitude, enjoying the weather. And I don't care if it's raining or it's sunny, enjoy the weather. Sit there and do what you said, write a little poem, a little something about if I were to summarize yesterday, the good and the bad, and that it ended wonderful because I'm still alive, right? So it ended well, and write a little poem on this, right? And then what you do is at the end of the day, you write a happy thing, you put it in the jar, right?
Yeah.
You do all this. Someone who's listening is going, "Oh my God, all this work! I'm not going to do all that." And the reason I'm making it sound even more laborious is because why not do it?
Why not do it?
Why not put the work in it if it's going to make you happy? Why instead wake up early, make the coffee, sit down, turn on the news, and go, "Oh, I can't believe this violence is happening. Look at this is what's going on over here, and look what's," and drink the coffee and get upset, and then immediately, like you said, spike my cortisol, go to work, open up emails, and start, "Oh my God, so we focus on all these things that we feel we have to do on a day-to-day basis that are the status quo, but it's bringing us down, and we know it's bringing us down. Instead, turn it around and let's focus on a couple of things. Start small, but focus on a couple of things that are going to bring you some joy, some happiness, and make that your regular
Flip
routine.
the switch.
Yes.
And only you have the ability to do that.
That's right.
My situation as caregiver, I flipped the switch. It's like, I've been thinking about all I'm missing out on.
Right,
But
right.
really, when you think that I'm making a difference in someone's
Yeah.
life, that I am giving them something positive in their day, if they're
Right.
shut in, that is so valuable. That
Right.
is immensely valuable. And it becomes immensely gratifying to me on those dark days when I look back and I think, hey, I've made a difference.
Right, right. You know what? I think the other thing that I really want to do is I want people to focus on this whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this idea. I have these white gym shoes and I love these shoes. I love these shoes because they've stayed clean. They were waterproofed and stuff. So I got them a little wet, but they stay clean. I like them, right? But what happens on my left foot, it's a little tight on my little toe. And so depending on the socks I wear, it's got a little bit of pain, right? And I sit here and I could be the person going, "Oh, I can't believe it. I got to get different shoes. These are so uncomfortable. I can't believe I'm walking in these shoes."
Mm.
But then I have to remind myself, oh my gosh, here I am in a radio show talking to a wonderful person who can talk about how you and your family have gone through segregation, this awfulness, right? How your husband and his family has gone through the Holocaust, how we can talk about, like what I mentioned earlier, how 1 out of 100 people died in World War II. You go back even further, people were dying by tribes killing each other, wild animals. And I sit there going, what gives me the right to complain about my little toe?
Absolutely. Keep it in its proper perspective.
Yes.
At least
yes.
you got shoes. Some people don't even have shoes.
Exactly. So in fact, that little bit of twinge that I feel in that toe
Marty,
is a reminder of there's things to be happy about.
That's right. You flip the switch.
That's it.
Mhm.
That is it. So do you have any other things, any other tips or tricks? I know I'm throwing it right at you like this. One of the things I think I told you before, when I was raising my kids, I used to play a thing called the silver lining game. And it was funny. My son always tells me, yeah, fine. It was kind of a funny game because it made him think quick. My daughter was like, I hated that game. All right. And it was, we'd sit there at dinner and I would say, we have to come up with like, what's the worst possible thing, a worst case scenario. Right. And then I said, now it's up to us to come up with 3 positives to it. All right. In other words, the positive things. Right. And I said one time, like, the cat runs away. Right. And we lose the cat. And my son goes, well, we can always get another cat. I'm like, yep. We don't have to buy cat food. Right. And he goes, and we don't have to change the kitty litter. Right. Perfect. Good. So you found 3 positives to it. Right. And I said, that's part of the game, was to come up with those negative things. Right. And it not only does it help you think of the optimistic end or the positive wrapped around it, but it also prepares you for negativity. It says that negative things are going to happen in life. So face them and realize that when they do happen, it doesn't have to be the end of my life. It doesn't, I don't have to, fall apart. Okay.
And like you were saying, we were saying a few minutes ago, be creative.
I like
when
this.
you bump into that wall that is separating you from your highest good, sometimes you have to go through it, around it. You can go over it. You can go under it. There's so many different ways that you can overcome this setback or this obstacle. So many ways if you apply yourself, if you think about it.
Yes.
And those would be the words that I would leave with everyone today, that in our journey towards happiness, we're going to run into those kinds of obstacles. It's going to make us think sometimes that the game is over. There's nothing else for me to do but give up.
I like it. Yeah.
But no, think about it. Step back. Use some of the principles that you've applied today.
Yep.
And figure out a way. I'm going to be happy because it makes me happier. It makes those around me happier. I'm healthier, and I'm going to live longer.
I love it. I love it. And I'm going to tell Betty, you're going to love this.
What?
The last page of my notes here, I got these highlights. The last page, my notes here towards the end, I said, you have the power to break through, which is just what you were just talking about. So it's beautiful.
Do you know?
Great minds, right? Great minds. That's it.
Absolutely.
All right. I think we are at the top of the hour. So I have to say goodbye to you again today until next month.
Yes, so long. Not goodbye.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Back.
All right. This has been so great. And for those of you, if you missed any of today's show, you really have to listen to the entire podcast. You've got to listen to the entire show. And what's going to end up happening is it will be a link on my website that will be the idea of we'll call it the science of happiness. So you'll be able to connect to episode 1 as well as episode 2. And next month we're going to be doing episode 3. This is going to be tremendous. Thank you so very much for making the trip up here. It has been absolutely my pleasure.
And you've made me happy.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, and last month she brought me donuts. This month she got me a hat and a t-shirt. So I'm ecstatic. So again, thank you so very much.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye-bye, everyone.